The first time Evan Parker heard the voice, he thought it was the old furnace acting up. His new rental house in Minnesota was nearly a century old, full of creaks, groans, and drafty corners that moved like something alive. He'd lived there only 5 days before the basement door began to bother him. It wasn't the look of the door, though it was odd. Too thick, reinforced from the outside. A deadbolt someone had added recently, like the previous tenant wanted very, very badly to keep something down there. Evan tried to ignore it, until Tuesday night, 12:41 a.m., when something whispered his name from the other side. Not loud, not urgent, just a soft exhale. Evan. He froze halfway through brushing his teeth. The voice was quiet enough to be imagined, but he knew what he heard. He stood there a full minute, toothbrush in hand, staring at the hallway. Nothing moved, but the air near the basement door felt colder. He didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, he called the landlord. "Basement's locked," Evan said. "Do I get a key?" The landlord's voice tightened instantly. "No, absolutely not. Don't go down there." "Why not?" "Just leave it alone," the landlord snapped. "It's not safe." Not safe. He didn't explain. He hung up. That should have been the moment Evan packed and left. He didn't. That night, the whisper came again. 12:41 a.m. Same time. This time clearer. A soft, breathy, "Please." Evan stood in the hallway, fear crawling up his spine. He stepped closer, pressing his ear to the cold wood. Something moved on the other side, slow shifting, like someone adjusting their weight. He whispered, "Who's there?" Nothing. But then, fingernails, dragging across the wood. One slow scrape from top to bottom. Evan stumbled back, heart pounding. He grabbed his phone and called 911. When officers arrived, they searched the basement door, the house, the perimeter. The lead officer, Deputy Rowan, leaned down and inspected the bottom of the basement door. He frowned. Deep grooves, fresh ones, as if someone had clawed upward along the inside. But the landlord insisted, "No one's lived there for months." Rowan pulled Evan aside. "If you hear that voice again, don't respond. Call us." The next day, Evan found a package on his porch. No return label. Inside was a small black notebook. The first page read, "Property of Jacob Frost," the name of the previous tenant. The rest of the pages were fragmented entries. 12:41 a.m. Again. He knows my name now. Something is copying my voice through the door. It only talks when the lights are off. I think it's getting closer. The final entry. It's not a thing. It's a person trapped in the walls. The date was 8 months ago. Jacob had vanished last winter. Police labeled it voluntary disappearance. Evan threw the notebook across the room. That night, Evan set up his phone aimed at the basement door. He turned off the lights and sat on the couch with every muscle tensed. At 12:41 a.m., the whisper began. But this time, it wasn't saying his name. It was repeating his voice. The voice on the other side of the door said, "Help me, help me, help me." Same tone, same pitch, exactly how Evan sounded when frightened. He felt sick. Then the doorknob rattled gently. Once, twice, then violently. He called 911 with trembling hands. Before the police arrived, something hit the basement door from the inside. A heavy, desperate blow. Then another. Dust drifted from the hinges. Rowan and 2 deputies arrived and immediately unbolted the door. Flashlights cut through the darkness. They descended the stairs. Evan waited near the doorway, shaking. He heard Rowan yell, "Jesus Christ!" Then silence. The officers came back up moments later, faces pale. "There's nothing down there," Rowan said. "No people, no animals, no heat signatures, just emptiness." But Rowan looked shaken, truly shaken, in a way Evan couldn't ignore. "What did you see?" Evan pressed. Rowan hesitated. "At first, we thought we saw someone standing behind the furnace. Tall, thin, pale. But when the flashlights hit it," he swallowed, "there was nothing there." 2 nights later, Evan woke to a new sound. Not a voice. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming up the basement stairs. He bolted upright in bed. The footsteps reached the top. Stopped. Then a whisper slid through the hallway air. "Let me in." But the whisper wasn't coming from behind the door this time. It was right outside his bedroom. Evan froze. Then a single tap on the bedroom door. Knock. He grabbed his phone, voice cracking. "Rowan, please get here now." The deputy arrived in minutes. He found Evan backed into a corner, shaking. The basement door was open. Wide open. But no one was in the hallway. Rowan swept the house again. Then he took a deep breath. "Pack a bag," he said quietly. "I'm not leaving you here." The next morning, Rowan returned with the landlord. The landlord finally admitted the truth. "There's a crawl space behind the basement wall," he muttered. "Originally part of the house's first design. It was sealed off decades ago." "Why?" Rowan demanded. The landlord swallowed. "Because the original owner, Daniel Frost, locked his son inside it during a breakdown." Evan froze. Jacob Frost? The man who vanished? He was related? The landlord nodded. "Great-grandson." Rowan stared at him. "What happened to the boy?" The landlord's voice cracked. "He was never found." The 3 men returned to the basement. Rowan hammered open the far wall. Behind it lay a narrow crawl space. Dust, rotting boards, cobwebs, and deep inside, scratches. Thousands of them. Some old, some new. Fingernails embedded in the wood. Teeth marks. Long drag marks that suggested someone crawled for years. Then, Rowan found something else. A palm print. Fresh. Too fresh. As if someone pressed their hand there minutes ago. And beside it, in the dust, were footprints. Bare. Human. But impossibly long. Footprints leading out of the crawl space toward the stairs. And then they stopped. The last print pointed directly at where Evan's bedroom door would be. That night, Evan didn't return. He moved into a hotel across town. The landlord boarded up the house. But neighbors still swear that at 12:41 a.m., someone knocks on the boarded basement door. Soft. Gentle. Like someone trying to get out. Or trying to come back in. And sometimes, when the wind is still, they hear a voice call into the night. "Evan." When Logan and Meredith Bell moved into their quiet home in Cedar Falls, Iowa, they felt like they'd finally found peace. A safe neighborhood, friendly families, a backyard big enough for their 8-month-old daughter Emma to grow up in. The baby's room was painted soft lavender, filled with stuffed animals and a white crib Logan built himself. For the first 2 months, nothing strange happened. Then, the baby monitor turned itself on. It was 2:28 a.m. on a Wednesday when Logan woke to a faint crackling sound. Heavy static filled the small receiver on his nightstand. He rubbed his eyes and grabbed the monitor. The camera in Emma's room wasn't activated, but the audio was live. Crackle. Buzz. He sat up in bed, confused. Then, beneath the static, a sound came through, soft and fragile. A voice. But not Emma's. A whisper. "Hello?" Logan's heart stopped. Meredith stirred beside him, groggy. "What is it?" she mumbled. "Shh," Logan whispered, lifting the monitor closer to his ear. Again, the whisper. "Hello?" It sounded like a child's voice, not a baby's, but soft, uncertain, scared. Meredith sat up instantly. "That's not her," she whispered. Logan didn't even answer. He jumped out of bed and sprinted to Emma's room. He pushed the door open. Emma was asleep, peaceful, barely moving. The room was completely still. He checked under the crib, inside the closet, behind the rocking chair. Nothing. No windows open, no intruders, nothing that could explain that voice. He returned to the bedroom, trembling. Meredith said, "Play it again," but the monitor was silent, dead air. The next morning, Logan brushed it off as interference. Maybe someone else's baby monitor was close enough to cross frequencies, or maybe the neighbor's walkie-talkies. It was a small town. Weird overlaps happened. Except the voice returned. The next night, same time, 2:28 a.m. This time, the voice was clearer, a little louder, and this time, it spoke. "Is anyone there?" Logan froze. He stared at the monitor with ice running through his veins. Meredith whispered, "It's a kid. It sounds like a little boy." But they didn't have a little boy. Logan stormed to Emma's room again. This time, he found something new. The baby monitor camera, which he always positioned toward the crib, was turned, facing the bedroom door, as if someone had rotated it. He stepped back, goosebumps running up his arms. He carefully adjusted the camera back toward the crib, then secured it with tape so it couldn't swivel again. At 2:28 a.m. the next night, he waited. He sat awake in bed, holding the monitor like a weapon. At exactly 2:28, the static returned. Soft at first, then louder. Then the voice. "Don't look." Logan felt his blood go cold. Then the voice said something new. "He's in the room." Meredith whispered sharply, "Turn the camera on! Turn it on!" Logan fumbled with the small switches, breathing hard. The screen flickered, grainy, then burst into focus. And for a split second, they saw the shape of a man standing behind the crib. Not a clear face, not a solid body, just a tall, thin silhouette, darker than the room, motionless, head tilted slightly like he was watching Emma. Meredith screamed. Logan ran down the hall as fast as his legs could move. When he flung the door open, no one was there. No movement, no shadows, nothing. But Emma was awake now, and crying. They called the police. Officer Ramirez arrived and inspected the house thoroughly, checking locks, windows, vents, closets, crawl spaces, every inch. Nothing. But when Logan showed him the monitor footage, Ramirez's face tightened. He rewound it, paused, zoomed. The silhouette behind the crib was real. Not dust, not reflection, not digital artifact. Ramirez called his partner in. They checked again. Attic, basement, backyard, and still found nothing. As they were about to leave, Ramirez asked the Bells a question. "Did you two know the history of this house?" Logan frowned. "What history?" Ramirez sighed. 10 years ago, a 5-year-old boy went missing from this house. His name was Caleb Marsh. Meredith felt her knees weaken. "Missing?" she whispered. "Vanished," the officer corrected. Parents swore he was taken from his room in the middle of the night. No forced entry, no footprints, no DNA, nothing. "And they never found him?" Logan asked. Ramirez shook his head. "Only thing we ever got was the baby monitor audio. He was calling for help the night he disappeared. Same kind of static you're hearing now." He paused. And same time, 2:28 a.m. Meredith clapped a hand over her mouth. "Are you saying—" "I don't know what I'm saying," Ramirez interrupted. "But whatever is happening, it started in this house a long time ago." Over the next few nights, things escalated. The voice on the monitor became more frequent, more distressed. Sometimes whispering, "Mom." Sometimes whispering, "Help me." Sometimes whispering, "He took me." One night, the static burst into full volume, so loud it nearly broke the speaker. The voice screamed, "He's back! Run!" Logan flew out of bed and raced to Emma's room, chest tight. Inside, the air was freezing. The temperature on the baby monitor dropped from 73 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit in 30 seconds. Emma was standing in her crib, crying hysterically, pointing at the closet. Logan slowly opened it, heart pounding. But again, no one was there. Just a cold draft and the faint smell of dirt. He called Ramirez immediately. The officer arrived within minutes, checked the closet, and stepped back with a frown. "There's a latch behind the closet wall," he muttered. "What kind of latch?" Logan asked, horrified. "A crawlspace door, painted over." Ramirez and Logan pressed hard against the panel. The drywall snapped. Behind it was a small square door, old wood, rusty hinges, something carved into it. C-A-L-E-B. Meredith nearly collapsed. They opened it. Inside was a narrow tunnel, pitch black, filled with dust, cobwebs, and rotting insulation. And at the end of the tunnel, they found a small pile of toys, children's toys, covered in dirt. Ramirez stepped back fast. "This wasn't here before," he whispered. "They built over it." Logan's throat tightened. "But the voice, what is it?" Ramirez looked at the monitor, which suddenly crackled loud enough to make everyone jump. The child's voice came through again. Soft, faint, closer. "Please, take me out," Meredith sobbed, but then the voice shifted. Darker, deeper. Not a child, not human. "Leave her. She's mine now." At that exact moment, the temperature dropped again. The closet door slammed shut. The monitor turned itself off, and Emma screamed like she'd seen death. Ramirez grabbed his radio. "All units respond. Code 3, possible child abduction threat." Backup arrived within minutes. The tunnel was fully excavated. The entire closet wall was torn out. But nothing was found. No child, no intruder, no creature. Just dead air and the distant sound of something dragging inside the walls. They evacuated the Bells that night. The baby monitor was taken as evidence. When police techs replayed the audio file later, they heard something new at the end. A faint whisper. Not the child, not the deep voice. Something in between. Something standing very close to the microphone. It whispered, "I'm not done." The Bells never returned to the house. The property is still vacant. But neighbors say that at 2:28 a.m., the windows of the nursery glow faintly. And if you stand close enough to the wall, you hear a small voice whispering through the drywall. "Mom?" And a second voice behind it. "He's still here." When Detective Nora Hayes transferred to the Missing Persons Unit in Colorado, she expected runaway teens, hikers lost in the mountains, maybe the occasional domestic disappearance. She did not expect the Callahan case. What made it terrifying wasn't the disappearance itself. It was the voicemail the missing man left. A voicemail recorded 24 hours after he vanished, and what it said. Ethan Callahan, a 41-year-old high school science teacher, lived alone in a modest two-bedroom house just outside Fort Collins. His neighbors described him as quiet, polite, a little lonely, but stable. Nothing about him suggested the chaos that would unravel in the next 2 weeks. It began on Friday, March 12th at 11:54 p.m. Ethan called 911 once. The call lasted 6 seconds. 911, what is your emergency? There's someone in my voice. Line disconnects. The dispatcher tried calling back. No answer. Police responded within 15 minutes. When they arrived, Ethan was gone. No forced entry, No signs of a struggle. Phone still on the counter, car in the driveway, lights on, just gone, like he stepped out of existence. His family filed a missing person report immediately, but the real nightmare didn't start until the next night. On Saturday, 11:54 p.m. sharp, Ethan's sister received a voicemail from his number, but the timestamp was horrifying. Recorded March 13, 11:54 p.m. Delivered March 14, 3:22 p.m. Meaning the voicemail was recorded 24 hours after Ethan disappeared, at a time when he was already missing. His sister played it for police. The message was short, and it chilled the blood of everyone who heard it. Ethan's voice whispered, "Nora, don't answer the door tomorrow." Detective Nora Hayes froze when she heard her name. She didn't know Ethan. She had never spoken to him, never even met him. Yet his voice said her name as if he was speaking directly to her. And worse, he was warning her about tomorrow. The investigation began immediately. Nora pulled phone logs, routing paths, signal towers. Everything pointed to an impossible truth. The voicemail originated from inside Ethan's house, 24 hours after he was already gone. That night, she visited Ethan's house with 2 officers. The home was cold. Too cold. As if someone had left every window open, except none were. They found something disturbing in the living room, a handwritten note on the coffee table. "I can hear myself speaking from tomorrow. Ethan." Under the note was a cheap little cassette recorder, the kind you buy at a thrift store. The tape inside was labeled 3:12, 11:54 p.m., Test 3. Nora pressed play. Static at first, then Ethan's voice. "I'm trying to record what I hear at night. Something's wrong. I hear my voice through the vents." Static. "It tells me things before they happen." Static. "Last night it said my sister was going to drop a glass bowl. She did. Exact second." Static. "Tonight it said someone was going to come into the house." The tape cut abruptly. Nora stopped the recorder and felt her skin crawl. Something wasn't just mimicking Ethan's voice. Something was predicting the future, or controlling it. The next night, Nora stayed late at the precinct. She didn't want to go home after hearing that voicemail. At 11:54 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown caller. She didn't answer. A voicemail came through immediately. Hands trembling, she pressed play. Ethan's voice whispered, "He's outside your house." Nora's blood ran cold. She replayed the message twice, 3 times, all the while thinking, how does he know where I live? How does he know me? At 2 a.m., she finally drove home, but she didn't enter immediately. She sat in the car, scanning her front yard, the bushes, the sidewalk. Nothing. The voicemail had said tomorrow, not tonight. She called backup. 2 patrol officers checked her house and found nothing unusual. She slept 2 hours that night. The next day, Sunday, the case took an even darker turn. Ethan's neighbor uploaded a video from his porch camera. The footage showed Ethan's driveway at 11:54 p.m. on the night he vanished. In the video, Ethan walked out his front door. He wasn't running. He wasn't scared. He was listening to something. He kept turning his head toward the empty yard, pausing as if someone was whispering into his ear. At one point, he said something, so softly the audio barely caught it. "I hear you. I hear you." Then he stepped off his porch and vanished behind a tall pine tree. He never came out the other side. The officers had checked behind that tree the night he vanished. Nothing. But the creepy part? The porch light behind Ethan flickered for 3 full seconds, and the camera glitched, a crackle of static, the kind you hear when a voice overlaps a radio signal. Nora knew what that meant. This wasn't a kidnapping. This wasn't a runaway. Something took Ethan. Something connected to that voice. and now it was calling her. That night, Nora did something reckless. She returned to Ethan's house alone. She sat in the living room, all lights off, phone recording. 11:54 p.m. approached. Her hands shook. At exactly 11:54 p.m., the vent above her head whispered, "Nora." She looked up slowly. Something moved behind the vent grate. Not a person, a shadow. A long, shifting shadow moving like smoke trapped in a box. The voice whispered again, "Don't go to work tomorrow." Then, louder, "Don't go near water." Nora's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She spoke, barely a whisper. "What happens tomorrow?" Silence. Then, "I die." Nora stood so fast the chair toppled. The shadow behind the vent pulled back, as if retreating. She bolted out of the house, shaking violently. The next morning, Nora didn't go to work. Not because she believed the voice, but because she needed answers. She returned to Ethan's house with a warrant and a team. They tore open the vents. Inside, they found long black wiring, cheap speakers, modified microphones, a small battery-powered RF transmitter, a recorder. Someone had been broadcasting voices through the vent system, someone who could imitate Ethan's voice, someone tech-savvy, patient, obsessive. A serial offender? A stalker? But then, they found something they could not explain. Behind the vent, taped to the inside wall, was a second cassette tape, labeled, "For Nora, play once alone." Nora's stomach flipped. She stepped outside with gloves on and pressed play. It was Ethan's voice, shaky, breathless, terrified. "Detective Hayes, if you're hearing this, I'm already dead." She froze. "He knows the future. He tells me things before they happen. He told me you would come here alone. He told me you'd find this tape." Static. "Don't follow the voice. It's not me." Static. "Whatever it is, it uses our voices to get close." Static. "Don't let it speak your future." The tape ended. Nora stared at the horizon, numb, pulse shaking her ribs. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She checked the timestamp embedded in the cassette. It was manufactured 4 days after Ethan disappeared. Impossible. Unless Ethan wasn't the one speaking. Unless the voice wasn't mimicking him, but evolving, learning, growing. Nora dropped the tape like it burned her. That night, her phone lit up again. Unknown caller. Her hands trembled. She didn't answer. A voicemail appeared. She played it with dread eating her alive. Her own voice whispered, "Nora, don't check the tape tomorrow. You won't like what you find." The message ended. Nora dropped the phone. There were no words left, just a deep, paralyzing realization. The voice wasn't mimicking people. It was mimicking time, predicting things, using them, leading people to places, cutting future moments open and rearranging them like clay. It was coming for her next. Detective Hayes took a leave of absence the following morning. The official report listed Ethan Callahan as missing, critical. The tapes were seized by federal agencies. Ethan's house had been boarded up since. Neighbors still report hearing whispers through the broken vents at 11:54 p.m. sharp. Sometimes it's Ethan's voice. Sometimes it's a child. Sometimes a woman. But the one that scares them the most is the voice that whispers before things happen. The one that predicts accidents, break-ins, arguments, injuries. A voice that sounds eerily familiar. Sometimes too familiar. And on certain nights, if someone stands too close to the boarded-up house, they hear a soft whisper right behind their ear. Your turn is tomorrow.